Hi, my name is Rabbi Zoot, and welcome back to the channel. I want to talk about something that doesn't feel very Jewish, doesn't feel very religious, but that's only because we haven't thought about it that way yet. Let's talk about television. How have we experienced television over the last several years? There was a long time where when you wanted to turn on the TV, you turned it on to one of the few channels that you had, and you either watched what was on live or you missed it. If you missed what was on TV, you better hope that somebody was replaying it again soon, because there was no opportunity to stop time or to record or really any way to process those things. And of course, as we get further into the evolution of television, we also start to see the opportunity to record things and the opportunity to TiVo things. And then we got to a very interesting point in time. We had developed this concept of cable, where we put all of the different channels together in one package, so you paid one provider to have access to the whole universe, or so to speak, of cable options, and you could have any TV you wanted for one flat price to one provider. But then, we started to see Netflix come along, and Hulu, and HBO, and all of these other pay-per-view concepts. These are subscription services that you pay a flat rate and you get access to the walled garden of content. By entering, you get an experience of only the things that are in that collection. Now, we're now in a period of time where we all have so many subscription services. You have to have Netflix, and you have to have Hulu, and you have to have Disney Plus, and you have to have HBO Max, and you have to have all of these different things if you want to see truly the full library of what TV has to offer. And so it's not hard to see a future where eventually someone might come along and say, how about this? Instead of paying $10 for this and $10 for that and $10 for this, what if you paid us $50 for access to all of these things? We'll get you a subscription to all of these different providers and we'll put it all together. Does that sound an awful lot like cable to you? We're starting to see that as we consume media, our media evolves and grows depending on the needs of the consumer at any given moment. We get the chance to see what it looks like when people want diversity. I want to own a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. We also get to see the point at which this is too much. It needs to be simplified. Now, this was not for the history of television, although I could tell you something about that. That's my other degree. The reason we're talking about it is because there's been a lot of conversation in the religious world about how do we use a subscription model for gaining access to Jewish spaces. Membership has been the conventional way of belonging to community. I pay a flat rate to a congregation and I belong to that congregation. That congregation pays a little bit of money to a union or a larger body of organization that allows me to maybe do a little bit of travel and see other places and maybe able to access other resources in other spots. But as a whole, my membership dues buy me into a community. Now, is that the right model going forward? More and more millennials are saying maybe not. But the concept of pay to play, or rather pay to pray, might not work either. Nobody wants to take money on their way in a synagogue. That's in violation of our Jewish ideals, let alone the sentiment of what we're trying to create. But we also are starting to lose sight of what am I getting for my money? When I pay a flat rate, I don't necessarily see this much money goes to pay the staff, and this much money goes to pay for the religious school, and this much keeps the building operating, and this much pays for a youth group that I don't have a kid to participate in, but maybe one day I will. We don't really have a sense of how our money plays into our participation in religious institutions. And so as we use this model of subscriptions and streaming, we start to see not a model we should emulate, because I'm not sure a subscription model is the right answer. I think there's a lot of creativity out there. There are people who are going to say, here's the subscription for just teen engagement. Here's the subscription for just religious school families. Here's the subscription for just aging adults. We have all these different branches, but that doesn't really create a cohesive community. And it doesn't really create the kind of cultural model that says we're all in this together and we all help support everything in the same way. How are we going to structure the way we pay to pray? I don't know. We don't have one good answer. But if we're looking at the way television has evolved for our solution, what we find isn't that we should do a subscription model. That's the easy answer. That's the cut and dry answer, and it's not really the best answer. Instead, what we learn from the subscription model and what we learn from the television evolution is that we need to be constantly paying attention to the environment in which we find ourselves and needs to be constantly asking questions about how do people want to engage with us? How do people want to engage in consuming our content? How do we want to provide something of value to the people that actually are coming and asking, hey, can we play with you? Because at the end of the day, Disney Plus is worthless if they don't actually say, how are we going to get people to actually watch our stuff? We in Jewish institutions and we in religion in general have to start asking the question, how do we find our people and how do we engage them? But there's one critical piece, and this is the most important element that we don't talk about nearly enough. We love to use the expression, let's meet the people where they are, and I love it. Judaism shouldn't be this ivory tower where we demand you to meet us up here, and if you won't, then forget you. But the essential ingredient that makes Jewish spaces and religious spaces more moral and loftier than just your average consumerism is that the expression goes one step further. We need to meet people where they're at and bring them somewhere else. Not somewhere else because we're judgmental of where they are. No, that's not it at all. But people only will come to us if we can provide some level of uplift, if we can provide some level of value added. We want to meet you in coffee shops because that's where you are, but we want to bring you to somewhere spiritual. We want to create a home for you that is not just the regular places you hang out, but someplace you can feel seen and cared for and respected in a way that your mundane everyday life just doesn't provide. It, of course, begs the question, how should Jewish spaces continue to engage you? What is our version of a subscription model that will revolutionize the way we engage? What is the 21st century of Jewish space? Just like streaming is the 21st century, at least this part of the 21st century, of television consumption. I want to know, what do you think the future has in store? And more importantly, what do you want your future to have in store? How can we engage you in a way that feels appropriate and feels right? These are all the important questions we need to ask, and I can't wait to engage with you. If you have questions, comments, or want to begin the conversation, please leave a comment below. Like and subscribe to make sure you're involved in the conversation, and pass us along to anyone who you think would benefit from what we're talking about. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you next week.